minutes to get in here and join me. I did announce myself. I know, I did so well this time. I'm probably too spontaneous. I get a lot of complaints about how people want to catch me, but they never know when I'm gonna arrive because I never announce myself. So, got a little bit of warning here. So, I'll take channel members' questions, super chats, and whatever questions I want to take, and I won't take the ones I don't want to take. We have the Capricorn new moon coming up in 2 days on the 30th, second new moon of the month. It's at 9 degrees in Capricorn. This is a good one. This is a good way to wrap up the year. Capricorn new moon is about getting straight with ourselves and being straight up. This is a lunation cycle that really asks us to honestly assess our maturity. How far have we come in terms of taking responsibility for ourselves and our lives? Hey, Ariana. Hey, Anne. So we look carefully because Capricorn is careful. It's very precise. We're developing that precision in Virgo, and then we master it in Capricorn. So this is where we are planting seeds related to wanting to get something right, wanting to get it right this time, wanting to be straight up, honest, straightforward. So we're planting seeds really of simplicity. Because when you're honest, when you're just honest about what you're feeling, you're honest about what's going on with you, you're honest about what you want, things can be pretty simple. We don't have the runaround, we don't have the mystery, we don't have the back and forth. Because vulnerability and plainness if we're careful about who we expose ourselves to, if we do it the right way, with the right people at the right time, we can have a reasonable expectation of safety. That's what Capricorn is all about, is safety. And what is Capricorn for? That's what the consequence of Cancer. Vulnerability. See, Capricorn is the shell, the home, the status, the image that we build around that more sensitive, vulnerable inner core that's looking for security. It's looking for belonging. It's the moon, Cancer. And so we go out into the world and we do the things, we perform the things of Capricorn. And so we're looking at our emotional maturity. And how well is what we're building for ourselves, what we're investing in, providing the kind of safety that we're really looking for. Sometimes we're doing things or investing things or building things that actually make us unsafe, that actually expose us to people or situations that actually aren't good for us, that actually aren't fostering equilibrium or security or real safety. They're more describing the kind of outcomes we've always had. That's a kind of safety there too. Capricorn and the moon can both be repetitive. Because if we're doing something that's known, even if it isn't serving us, well, you know, the devil that you know might be better than the devil that you don't know. Saturn is asking us to look at the boundary with this new moon coming up here. Capricorn new moon. Look at the boundary that we've drawn for us, ourselves. Sometimes our boundaries are outdated. Sometimes they're non-existent. Sometimes they're too far in, sometimes they're too far out. Sometimes they're just right. We usually know that because we're getting a repetitively healthy result or confirmation. So there's a lot going on this lunation cycle when it comes to just outgrowing some of our childish shenanigans. I know that's not fun until you realize how much fun it is. Because then you can get a different result. But you have to sacrifice something in order to get something different. We have to leave something behind. And we're making some very diligent efforts based on extremely deliberate choices. Because we're choosing to plant something stable, mature, healthy, lasting. So that's what I have to say about that. All right, open for whatever questions you guys have. If you don't have a ton, I am not going to complain because I'm starving and I'm going to make dinner sooner than later. And Capricorn new moon in the 8th house. So that's the area of life that you will be experiencing this lunation cycle. The themes associated with it: taking responsibility for your life, is stopping blaming things outside of yourself, giving up the blame game, because every time we blame something or we have somebody else take responsibility for us traversing our own limits or not being responsible for our own limits, if we blame somebody outside of ourselves, we're saying that that person is the one that holds the strings. They have the power. I can't change, I can't go past that, I can't level up until that person or situation or condition agrees or changes or stops doing what they're doing. It makes it really hard for us to move forward. So in the 8th house, this is our sewer. This is where our resentments lie. And this is a lot of times our reason goes to die in the 8th house, because this is a very passionate area of life. So you are going to be cleaning up the sewer of your life, my dear, where we experience the most amount of stress, where we are driven from the underneath, where we have a maximum of unexamined motivations. You're going to be looking at some of that stuff and saying, no more. I want something better. I want something different. I want something healthy. It may be hard because I'm going to have to flush some things. I may even have to address some addictions or some generational karma, some things that my parents did to me, some things I inherited, some traits that just by virtue of growing up with the people that I grew up with, I have to address and really make some hard choices regarding what you are going to let go of so you can have a better experience of life, better relationships, better self-respect. Self-respect, oh my God, we can gain so much self-respect at this lunation cycle. All of us. Capricorn, new moon, whatever you have around 9 degrees, especially, this is going to hit you harder. We're drawing some lines in the sand and constructing some boundaries that are good for us and that will force a level of respect from those in our life, because they see that we are unreachable or untouchable or unmovable until there's a certain standard or expectation that's met. And that's what unlocks the door. But not everybody gets to come in, because not everybody is deserving of our time or our attention. You have to be careful about who we attach to. Alrighty. Is the Capricorn new moon a good time to release projects? Yes, excellent, excellent time to release anything that we want to build over the course of the new year, or that we are counting on to lend us some kind of concrete result, or something that we want to commit to, or have some kind of lasting result from. So we're not taking it lightly, what we're doing at this time. We're being very intentional. Peonies and parrots would love to know about your thoughts on unaspected planets in synastry, especially Venus. No, Venus square Venus conjunct Venus is still in the same sign. It doesn't matter if it's wide. If they're in the same sign, it's still a conjunction with Venus to Venus, because they are operating from the same motivation. They're after the same things. They have the same style. So, unaspected planets in synastry. Well, that means that there's something in our nature, in one of the people's nature, that is not naturally included in the dynamic between the partners. So if it's Venus, that's pretty significant. An unaspected moon, unaspected Venus, those are something to really consider in synastry, because that is a big chunk of our life. I mean, Venus is like, and the moon are like, these are like the reasons that we get into relationships. And if our sensibilities, our wants, our preferences, Venus stuff, our style of love, how we want to be loved, how we love, if that is not included, we are going to have to make some significant conscious efforts in order to teach the other person what Venus is for us, how to include it, because it's not going to be a natural course of action in that relationship. So when we have a planet that is not making contact with any of somebody else's planets, that's a part of our personality or experience that is out of the loop. It's off the radar of the other person. And that doesn't mean that we can't have a happy relationship. We are going to have to consciously, though, bring that into the relationship and introduce this part of us to this person and teach them over the course of time how to treat us when it comes to that particular planet or part of ourself. Charlotte, wondering how to survive transiting Pluto in the 7th, square Chiron, Moon conjunction in Taurus in the 11th house, opposite Lilith and Leo in the 1st, Lilith square Chiron Moon natal. That's a lot. All right, well, we'll just talk about the bullet points here. So Pluto will be in the 7th for a long time. Maybe it has been already. So that's not something that is significant in itself. I mean, that's going to be, you know, probably a 20-year period of time, depending on how wide that house is for you and what house system you use. But it is going to be transforming over the course of a long period of time how you relate to others, your behavior in relationship with others, your selfishness, your insecurity, jealousy, all the unexamined motivations that drive us within relationship. That is going to be transforming over the course of a long period of time. But the fact that it's squaring a Chiron Moon conjunction, that's a big deal. You have to dig deeper than you ever have to figure out why you do what you do when you have that square from Pluto to the moon. Because we're looking at our habitual emotional patterns and how they drive us unconsciously and the kind of choices that we make that we don't even know that we're making unless we really, really watch carefully and come to know ourselves deeply. So you are going to you're going to get to know yourself. And it's painful. That is a painful transit. All the difficult transits of Pluto to the moon are extremely painful. Because the moon is what's comforting. It's what's most dear to us. So it's a period of time we experience a ton of suffering. And it causes us to let go. Make room for better coping skills, better ways of handling our emotions and our feelings. You'll survive it. ER, any advice for a man with a 5th house Venus that squares an 8th house Pluto, Chiron, and 2nd house Jupiter? Oh, thank you. So 5th house Venus squares 8th house Pluto, Chiron, and a 2nd house Jupiter. So it's a T-square. So Venus squares Pluto, Chiron. Venus squares Jupiter. So we love big and probably over-trusting on the one hand with Venus squared to Jupiter, and we are full of fear and are riddled with trust issues with a Venus squared Pluto, Chiron, on the other hand. So we don't know if we're coming or going when we have this going on in a natal chart, because we're one way, but we're also another way. And so when we're pulled into directions like this, oh God, this can be so painful because we could be so torn. We can be so conflicted within ourselves because we want to go all in. I mean, we like want to rush to the altar. We have a love and a generosity that's just larger than life with a Venus square to Jupiter. Like we can err on the hopeful side. But there's this other side that comes up when we get into this situation where our heart is pulled into something, our trust issues rear their ugly head with a Venus square to Pluto, Chiron. And so the natural outcome is that we end up with a broken heart. Because we can be very much overestimating who we're with and what we're getting into with a Venus square to Jupiter. And then this other part of us kicks in after we get into a relationship where trust and safety is required. See, there's the assumption of it with that square, but if we are unhealed, we get into the relationship and we discover that we lack the tools, we lack the maturity, we lack the healing to be able to participate in that beautiful relationship that may have had a lot of potential. So if we don't know ourselves, we get ahead of ourselves. If we don't know ourselves, we can lag behind. And so you have to be so aware that on the one hand, you can overestimate, and on the other hand, you can be stingy and hold back. And so make sure that you look carefully at what you're getting into. Don't go with the assumption that it will all be okay. We'll figure it out as we go along. That's the thinking that tends to get us with the Venus-Jupiter square. We can look past red flags because we're focused on possibilities and potentials. We fall in love with someone's potentials so easily with Venus-Neptune or Venus-Pluto, or Venus-Jupiter aspects. And it's true, we are seeing that beauty and all that potential there, absolutely, absolutely. But it doesn't exist right now. You're dealing with that person as they are right now. So don't get involved with somebody hoping that they will change, counting on it. Especially women. Women, do not get involved with a man believing or hoping that he will change, because the only thing men change is the woman that they're with. Someone has to be of their own free will ready and prepared to change if it's going to happen. People don't change for other people. They change for themselves. They change because they know it's good for them. It doesn't last if it's for someone else. If you change because you know that's what you want for yourself, that's where it's at. So that's what we have to be willing to do. When we have a T-square like that, we have to be willing to solve this conflict within ourselves by acknowledging that we have a hypocrisy within our nature. We're one way, but we're also another. And we're going to watch ourselves to make sure that we don't get into circumstances where we've jumped into a pool with no water and then are getting into suspicion, hypervigilance. Oh, the hypervigilance that will come in with that kind of configuration. Oh my God. It will drive you crazy. So there's a lot of healing that has to be done when it comes to making better choices, having better discernment, and then knowing yourself well enough to be able to open up and trust when it's appropriate. All right, that's what I got. Oh, Charlotte, don't worry. I just went through it. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, that moon square Pluto. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy for sure, but I mean, it's got to happen to somebody, right? You'll be fine. You're already drawn to this stuff. You eat this kind of stuff for breakfast. If you're into astrology and personality theory or non-duality, this is going to be right up your alley. I'm serious. This will drive you inward. It will be the most introspective time of your life, and you are going to mine for gold. So, yeah, this is going to change you. That Pluto square to the moon, that will change you. There's no going back. These are good things. Let's see. Oh, Moonlight Graham transiting Neptune will make a conjunction to your natal Venus in the coming years. Yeah, I might want to beat that one to the punch by working through some of your romantic illusions and looking at how can you be taken in? How can you see something and assume, often without evidence, that it is the love of your life, or it is the answer to your dream, or it's a fantasy come true? Yeah, we can find out a lot of ourselves in terms of our escapist tendencies and what we are unaware of within ourselves by looking at a lot of those romantic illusions and how we can be naive. Oh, Ariana. So Pluto is coming into your 11th and going to conjunct your Uranus. So that is interesting. That's everything that we hold on to. Resentment, the underneath, unexamined tendencies, death anxiety, all Pluto stuff working on Uranus, which is liberation. So it urges us to act on some of the scariest wishes and desires of our heart when we have that conjunction. You got it, peonies and parrots. That's a good one. We probably get along. I like both of those things. Wow. A lot of people are struggling with some difficult transits. Yeah, lots of Pluto aspects too. So Paris, Sun square Pluto in Synastry, Pluto conjunct the descendant and the composite. Is it better just stay away? Or can it be positive? The pull is intense, but you're the Pluto. You know, it depends on how well we know ourselves, how much we've healed. That is one where we can get into some control issues, because we can be very afraid of each other with those difficult aspects to Pluto, because we don't want to lose something, as the Pluto person. So we can play games, we can manipulate, we can come up with all kinds of reasons why we want to limit the self expression of the sun person in this case, because it's the sun, or control them in some way, or keep them hemmed in. So, you know, I can handle those kinds of relationships, even as the Pluto person, because I'm so committed to relationships that are centered around compassionate non-attachment. You can't behave in plutonic ways when you are in relationships where that is the dynamic. But that's going to pull any karmic patterns out of you that are unhealed, those difficult aspects to Pluto, to anybody's inner planets. So, not all of us are going to act out of plutonic drives. Not all of us are going to see that we could take an opportunity or get away with something and choose to do it. The nature of a relationship that is based in compassionate non-attachment is that you're not there to take advantage of each other. You're not there to get something from the other person. You're there to give and to experience equal give and take. So if you are wrestling with some plutonic patterns within yourself, it's not advised to get into those relationships where somebody's triggering that exact pattern within us. But myself, I'm not afraid of it. I can get even into the worst plutonic situation and have absolute confidence that I am not going to engage in a way that's going to hurt that person. I didn't used to have that kind of confidence. All right, guys. I think that's what is here. Hey, Natalie. Is that Natalie? All right, so, guys, I am starving. I have to go make dinner. I'll pop in and talk to you guys again tomorrow. I'm not sure when. I will try to make an announcement. Uh, I'm just teaching in the morning, so I might have time to see you guys again. All right. Bye, Charlotte.